for the Burning River Sportscast. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme. The playoffs have begun with the Browns already in full off-season mode. No one hires like the Browns. No one fires like the Browns. No one's quite as incompetent as the Browns. Mike Prefer is still employed, and the search for the next defensive coordinator is ongoing. Super Wildcard weekend was in full effect. Sans Cleveland Browns. Not a ton of surprises here, but there was something there that wasn't there before. Who were the big winners and losers of round one in the NFL playoffs? We'll break it all down for you next on the Burning River Sportscast. So the first thing that would happen is you'd be totally vaporized.
This is one of those situations where all these old heads, the people that don't want the game to change at all, whatever, they want to sit in their seat, eat their Cracker Jacks.
But maybe Andrew Barry is King George.
Who knows?
What if Stefanik is just Prince Harry? I was going to do a funny thing with the bottle, but you turned it off.
I'll probably get a lot of shit for this. Baseball's not that exciting.
I think Taylor Hicks is still alive. Modernization isn't trying to offer craft beers to hipsters.
Calling me a hipster. We're starting to really check the things off. I got long hair. I'm wearing a beanie today. I drink craft beers.
You smell funny. You love to recycle.
Everybody should love to recycle, Kenny. This is the Burning River Sportscast where we like to save rivers.
I like Bud Light.
Well, you're an idiot.
Welcome into the internationally renowned and fastest growing Cleveland Browns podcast in the world, the Burning River Sportscast, presented by Tapin Media. I'm Kenny Thunder, alongside the love child of Pontius Pilate and Jenny Lind, the gentleman who puts the on in gonorrhea, red hot Ronnie Jams.
Man, these get worse every week.
Ronnie, tell our friends where they can find the best NFL Beauty and the Beast mashups inside of a pod.
You can find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Castro, and so many more. Bro, you see, Robbie Knievel died this week?
Robbie Knievel was my first Daredevil crush.
All right. But seriously, he died of cancer.
Very sad news.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the way he went out.
No, how would you have done it?
I mean, I don't
think he really chose. He passed away.
Well, I mean, I think
R.I.P.
When you get to a certain point, you know the end is nigh.
Okay.
If I'm Robbie Knievel, I'm hopping on the bike one last time and just jumping straight over the Grand Canyon. Just going out like I came in a ball of flames.
It's not even a stunt. It's like the stunt.
Yeah, I mean, he would be immortalized forever. They'd probably put a statue of him on his bike.
Regardless of if he made it or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you make it, great. You still get to die next week. But if you don't make it, that's what the world has been wanting.
Oh my God.
Tell him what he's won, Jim. Hospice bed.
Wow. We are not that heartless here at the Burning River Sportscast. It was R.I.P.
R.I.P. Robbie. No, for real.
He was a
cool guy.
Pop culture icon for a while there, him and his father. So, and of an era, I guess, right? There's not really a lot of stuntmen lately. Travis Pastrana? He's the only one left.
Does Travis Pastrana count as a stuntman, though?
Seeing as there's so much science in theirs, and they're like, we know for sure we could do this. Evil Knievel and Robbie Knievel literally just went out there and they're like, I don't know, let's find out.
I think if I go fast enough, I can get over all them buses.
I broke every bone in my body.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I don't know, but end of an era for sure. So R.I.P.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
It was sad to see that news. It feels like we've lost a lot of celebrities already in 2023.
Who else?
I don't know. I'll bring that list next
I'm not real sure who we've lost, but it feels like a lot. So
some guy from American Idol just died.
All right. Was it Taylor Hicks?
No, Lisa Presley.
Presley?
Yeah, Lisa.
Taylor Hicks has the same color hair as you.
I think Taylor Hicks is still alive.
Are people going to be Googling, is Taylor Hicks alive?
Taylor Hicks death conspiracy?
Yeah.
Started on the Burning River Sportscast.
Sorry, guys. No, he's alive.
Maybe.
Anybody else? Those are you got one, and it feels like so many.
There's more. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
That was good. So, anyways, getting into sports in the Cleveland Browns, it feels pretty bad that they aren't playing when all these other teams are, right?
Yeah, I mean, you expanded the playoffs and they still can't get in.
Yeah, when you put it that way. So I guess let's just go ahead and get into this thing. We'll start with Cleveland sports in the Burning River Rundown.
I love new sounders.
So what's your reaction to the playoffs right now? I mean, you're watching the playoffs, right? It's all playoffs teams in this thing. That, you know, something the Browns are not right now. What do these teams bring to the table that you've seen that the Browns need that we don't have?
First off, it's just disappointment is the first thing that comes across, because you feel like you had the talent to be there.
Oh yeah,
you're watching some of these teams. So it's tough because you go from a roster standpoint. I don't think that the Jacksonville Jaguars were better than the Cleveland Browns roster this year. I don't think that even the Seahawks roster was better than the Cleveland Browns this year.
Hell, I don't think the Vikings were better than the Browns this year.
Yeah, probably not. So there are several teams out there that you feel like you absolutely were on par or better than, but you couldn't get in. But I just watched some of these teams too, and you almost feel like they're playing a different game.
Everything, even the worst teams in the playoffs, everything's so crisp and clean, and like there's discipline. There's a sense of urgency is the thing that comes to mind for me.
Urgency and just a will to want to win.
They have legitimate head coaches.
I think that is the one thing that did stick out to me probably most of all is just the coaching job by each of these guys. Like I said in the open, I don't think there were a ton of surprises here. Jacksonville, like we'll get into the games more in a little bit, but when you look at the jobs that the coaches did, phenomenal. And there were a lot. I mean, we were fortunate this weekend to have a lot of really good games because sometimes that wildcard week can be a little bit sleepy,
boring. Snooze fest.
The better teams just kind of win, and these were all for the most part close games.
Even the games that weren't close became close, and then even turned in some cases. So
so I just think that there's a real clear. The leadership on those teams is really clear. It's clear that there's respect for the players in the locker room and back to the coaches because they want to play and coach for each other.
Fair. Okay.
And I didn't see a lot of like really stupid play calling. There was some, but usually on the teams that lost.
There's always some. I think I have it noted later. There's one that an example that I'll break out later when we're talking about the playoffs. But
the other thing is too, thinking about the playoff teams this year, thinking about who was at quarterback for some of these teams. We've talked all season, like this year's NFL was so wide open.
Yeah.
Yep. Think about the quarterbacks in these playoffs. I mean, Geno Smith, Brock Purdy.
Fun fact: the 4 highest paid quarterbacks were not in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think who all there. So it's Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, who he only played 6 games. So I guess take that for what it is. And then the 4th one, who am I missing here?
Tom Brady. I don't know.
No, Tom Brady's in. But anyways, the top 4, you can find a graphic or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Tom Brady's in. But outside of Tom Brady, I mean, the thing about some of these other quarterbacks, I mean, Kirk Cousins is perennially the guy that literally just gets left off of every list and made fun of because he's not that good, even though statistically he's had good seasons. But like, he's probably the best one of the bunch when you think about Brock Purdy, Tyler Huntley. I mean, Joe Burrow's in there, but like some of these guys, like you either never heard of or were washed out and came back. And to think about the quarterback play that we had all year long and how well the offense worked when you stuck to your identity. I think that's another thing, identity. I think the teams that run the ball ran the ball. The teams that throw the ball threw the ball.
I will say it's a bit of a stretch to say that Kirk Cousins is even close to the best of the bunch that's in the playoffs right now when we have Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes.
All right. Well, Patrick Mahomes didn't play this weekend. I'm talking about wild card weekend.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You need to specify, man.
I'm talking about this weekend.
You need to specify.
I didn't see Patrick Mahomes this weekend. So, yeah, I mean, it's not that all the quarterbacks in the league are trash. I'm just saying that our quarterback play this year, up until Deshaun got in especially, was on par with each of those teams.
Oh, yeah.
I just, again, it all goes back to just the disappointment of the fact that you're not there. Because these teams that have identities did what they are supposed to do. And your identity, like it or not, Kevin Stefanik, is that you're a zone run team and you refuse to accept that. So it just was like, can you imagine
a zone run team
can you imagine
doesn't run the ball?
If Mike Vrabel was like, I know we got Derrick Henry, but we're going to air this out with Ryan Tannehill. We're just going to run and gun, baby.
Malik. Who's
Malik McDowell. Yeah.
He's
Josh Dobbs. We're going to air this thing out. No need to give Derrick Henry the ball 30 times. Let's just start launching it down the sideline.
While we're on this topic, I didn't even think we'd get into this today, but I got on our social medias this week, I got so many people commenting on different videos that we have out there or whatever of us talking about how Nick Chubb needs more carries. And they're telling me, well, he got 302 carries. That's a decent amount. No, it's not. We play 17 games now.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a lot of carries. That comes out to what, 16, 17 carries a game? Nick Chubb is a generational talent. He should have somewhere between 20 and 25, and that's not even causing a ton of wear and tear on him. That's just a normal amount of carries. Derrick Henry literally averages close to 30.
Yeah.
Like, it's like 26 or something like that. So what do you mean don't give him that many carries? Like, I got so many people telling me, well, he had 302 carries. That's plenty, and he finished with over 1,500 yards, first time since Jim Brown. Yeah, I get it. But imagine if he actually got his 20 carries a game.
Well, yeah, you'd have 1,800 yards, and instead of 12 touchdowns, you'd have 16 or 18, which in a lot of the games that we lost that were one-possession games makes the difference in whether or not you're in the playoff conversation.
Yeah, so don't give me no shit about Nick Chubb and me saying he needs more carries. It's simple. I'm not the only one saying it. People a lot smarter than me are trying to tell Kevin Stefanik to run the damn ball.
And we're not saying to give Dearness Johnson 25 carries a game.
No.
I mean, you're talking about a guy that can handle 25 carries a game in a meaningful way.
Yeah. It just frustrated me all week. So I'm just like, these guys, they're like, well, they're keeping him fresh all season. For what? We didn't make the playoffs. Don't need him to be fresh.
I mean, with as fresh as he's going to be, I hope he can play running back at a high level
until he's 45.
Until he's 36 years old.
He's going to be Tom Brady playing running back. Yeah, come on. But anyways, we'll move on here a little bit. It's been quiet since the end of the regular season for the Browns. There was only a couple kind of stories of note this week, so we'll get into those. First off, Jadeveon Clowney comes out and apologizes to Myles Garrett and said he should have spoken to Myles Garrett first, and that things were taken out of context. It's
kind of a weird apology. I mean, what did he say? Is that I'm as a father and a son and a
put it up there.
Yeah,
it's a tweet.
It's look, here's the really unfortunate thing about Jadeveon Clowney is as much as he didn't play this year and as much as he was a non-factor in a lot of games, he is statistically your second most productive player, at least by PFF grades. When you look at the Browns defense over the course of the year, for the entire year, He's
always been that way. He kind of flies under the radar. He picks up double teams. He does all kinds of things.
Yeah, he does all the things that
free stuff up for everybody else.
He does. The people that watch the ball don't see the things that the Jadeveon does on a play in play out basis. Yep. But teams like PFF that look at that and grade on did you win your matchup or not, more or less throughout the game. Myles was our number one defender. Rated, by far. I think 92.3 or 92.5.
Yeah, he was number one defensive end in the league, actually.
In that elite category. And Jadeveon was your second best defender from a rating standpoint at around 75.3, 75.5. So as much as, we can all like, hey, you know what, screw you, get the hell out of here. We don't have time for those kinds of games. Like, you already have a defensive front that is weak, and losing Jadeveon Clowney doesn't make you better.
No, and so here's my take on the whole apology this week. While I don't think anything was taken out of context, like he says, because the entire interview was published. I mean, it's not like you could just pick and choose. It's all there.
He lit him up.
Yeah, I do think the intent was twisted, because I don't really think he was calling out Myles. I think him and Myles do have a decent relationship. I think he was specifically expressing frustration with the coaches. And, I mean, we all know their ass. So
true.
So they're bad coaches. One got fired because he's a bad coach. So, I mean, he didn't say anything that was technically wrong. He just went about it the wrong way. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, though. He's probably gone. He's probably not on the team anyway, so we don't have to keep talking about it.
He's just one more guy in a long line of players this year that have aired their grievances some way publicly. He just took it to another level, I think, because of the medium he chose. But I want to take just a real quick second on this, because I think we've, by and large, blamed Kevin Stefanik for this locker room and the dissension and just
it's kind of been a mess since he's been here, right?
Not getting along. But I think it's time that you have to also start to point the finger at Andrew Barry, and I don't know that he has gotten enough of that, because he's the one technically that built the roster. And if he's continually bringing in guys that can't get along in the locker room, don't respect coaches, can't have apparently adult conversations with coaches, to have these conversations behind closed doors like adults do, that's a problem.
I would agree with you to an extent, because my concern is, what if Jadeveon Clowney tried to air these grievances with the coaches and sit down and talk with them, but you've got Kevin Stefanik who doesn't listen and keeps telling him, well, we're going to get better. Everything we want's on the other side of hard. And Jadeveon's like, what does that mean?
Well, how
does that help me?
I still think you have a mutiny, a quorum of players that are saying things publicly.
Mutinies always look bad in the moment, but history usually sees them as that's what should have happened.
Hell, our country's a mutiny.
Right. So I'm just saying, right, in the moment, he looks terrible. But maybe when we look back at Stefanski's tenure with this team, we're like, man, somebody should have said that earlier.
But maybe Andrew Barry is King George.
Who knows?
What if Stefanik is just Prince Harry?
Who knows? This is a whole other topic that we can get into for another time. I actually like this. We'll revisit this on a future show this offseason.
Who's playing King George?
Yeah, I'm a fan. Fun fact, the King George is it King George in the Hamilton play? He's played by St. Ignatius grad.
Excellent.
Yeah, so Cleveland kid. Anyways.
Good job, Cleveland.
Next up on the Browns stories this week, Deshaun's truck got stolen and was found in a ditch in Cleveland. So
what a bizarre story. I saw the headline and I'm going man, that's pretty ballsy to steal Deshaun Watson's truck. Started looking into it and realized that it was in the shop for service, and they just boosted a bunch of cars from the service shop.
Feels bad.
From a Mercedes-Benz dealership, I guess. So,
well, if you're going to hit one, that's the one to go after.
I guess. But yeah, and then it's just to park it in a ditch and leave it. Bold moves all around.
Well, that was fun. Let's get out of here.
Remember that time we drove to Deshaun Watson's truck?
Oh, man, I was so wasted.
Send it.
Next up, and kind of the final Browns story this week, is the Browns have interviewed these guys for the defensive coordinator job this week. Brian Flores was interviewed from the Steelers, Jim Schwartz from the Titans, Denard Wilson from the Eagles, and Sean Desai from the Seahawks. So we'll get into each of these guys here in just a second, a little bit. But first, we talked about Black Monday and all the coaching and front office turnover last week, right? It went around fired. Everybody's fired. Well, we got a new addition. Scott Turner, Commanders offensive coordinator, fired. And we may have more to come here. There's a lot of rumors going around that Brandon Staley, head coach of the Chargers, is on the hot seat right now, and he may be next. So
I'll say this. I think Brandon Staley is a Northeast Ohio guy or an Ohio guy. And if the Chargers wanted to fire him, I would be very interested in bringing him in as a coordinator.
Yeah, me too. And so that's kind of why I went with those first, because it's a good segue into our deeper dive into this defensive coordinator search here. So
mostly because I would want Brandon Staley to be the interim head coach next year when they fire Stefanik.
Well, yeah, everybody would.
When Stefanik gets fired. We didn't time that up very good.
Yeah, well, I was just mad.
It was a bad job out of you.
Anyways, so Gerard Mayo was my pick, and he has officially withdrawn from consideration because the Patriots are giving him a promotion, and or he's also being considered for some head coaching jobs out there, which is kind of a new development. And you talk about Jeff Saturday, no experience. Gerard Mayo's not far behind him, but like I said, he's around the league. He's kind of known as an up and coming rock star in the coaching world. So
I heard an interesting story. I know I don't want to talk about Gerard forever because he's out of the search, but I've heard an interesting story about him last week that this year, I think it was, that Bill had offered him a co-defensive coordinator position. And he basically told Bill to shove it because he wasn't going to be a co-anything.
Fair. I mean, it goes back to that. Gerard Mayo is a little bit younger than a lot of these, these old guys in the coaching world. I know it's kind of we're in a phase of turnover right now. You got a lot of younger coaches out there, but he's in that group, and I think the younger people, to use an overly used phrase, know their worth. And yeah, I mean, if you feel like you're that good, I would have said the same thing. I'd be like, I know you're Bill Belichick, but I don't give a shit.
He basically said was that doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, so that's not the next step in my career. I know where I'm going. So
yep.
So good on him. But Brian Flores up next. He looks to be out at this point, actually, because of all the interest that has come up with him as far as head coaching candidate goes. He's if he is signed as a coordinator, it would likely only be for a year. Because he's probably going to get more interest again next year. And so it may force the Browns to kind of eliminate him from consideration here.
Yeah. Look, I'm still a little surprised at all of the interest in Brian Flores. Not that he's a bad coach, just given the amount of baggage that kind of comes with hiring him at this point because of the NFL suit and everything that went on last year and with the Dolphins and the Belichick texts and all that stuff. So I would have thought he would have been more of a, I don't even know what the word is, a pariah, or at least looked at that way by NFL clubs, but there's certainly
specifically by like owners.
Yeah, but there certainly seems to be a lot of interest out there for him, and probably because he is a good coach. I mean, I think he's had success in a lot of places.
Oh, and to be honest, hopefully they're turning a corner. I know it's always been like the owners club in the NFL, but hopefully they're turning a corner and being able to treat head coaches, players, what have you, with some respect rather than just this is the owners club and we protect our own at all costs. So.
Yeah, those guys got a lot of money.
They certainly do. Zimmer was up next here, but we have no interview scheduled with him. He was kind of a hot name when the search first started, but nothing has progressed there.
I haven't heard anything about Mike Zimmer at this point. Still think he's an intriguing candidate, but does seem that right now a lot of the attention and focus has been on this next guy and Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, so Jim Schwartz, he has interviewed. Supposedly the interview went well. He's up towards the top of the list. Nobody knows exactly where he falls at this point, but this is a guy that's a former head coach, and you talk about somebody, just in case we're firing Stefanik next year, we got a guy that's waiting in the wings to take on that interim head coaching job. So
there's an interesting psychology here, I think, about whose decision is this? Is this Kevin's decision to build his staff, or is this a Barry and Haslam decision to bring in a guy?
Well, if we go by your previous comments, he's a Podesta Patsy. So
well, see. But so I think there's some interesting psychology here on both sides because I don't know who's making the decision. I think based on the press conference, it felt like Andrew Barry went out of his way a couple of times to say like this is Kevin's staff, and obviously there will be collaboration. But he all but said like this will be Kevin's decision, but he didn't say it. So that's why
that point
still interesting.
That actually, when I hear that makes me think like this is what we're telling everybody, but really this is my decision.
But then I also think there's a psychology on Stefanik's side too. Let's rule out Andrew Barry at this point and say this is totally Kevin Stefanik's decision. Do you bring in a guy like a Jim Schwartz or Mike Zimmer, knowing that?
I mean, if I'm Stefanik, I want it.
Knowing that they are a number one in the event that you start slow next year.
As hot as his seat got towards the end of this year when they were just playing like trash.
But
yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't.
But for the success of a team, does it make sense to bring in somebody like that? So I just think it's interesting. Like,
you win some.
How does Kevin play that power dynamic where you might want the most qualified candidate, but you also know bringing in the most qualified candidate may mean your exit. So do you find a Stefanik Patsy
No such thing.
Somebody that people don't know, somebody like this Denard Wilson, who's like the passing coordinator.
Okay, this might be the only one that could be a Stefanik patsy. is because I don't even really have anything written down for him. I know, like you said, he's a passing game coordinator, but there's not really.
He's one of those guys that's going to come in and they'll have a press conference and Barry will say, "Here's what he's done. He's done all these things." And you'll go, "Okay," you'll buy into it because they'll say, he's done this and he's done that, even though none of us have really ever heard of him.
Listen, no offense to Denard Wilson, if he's the guy, I know exactly what the angle is.
He's a Stefanik patsy.
Yeah. But this next guy, though, you talk about younger, guys coming in that you may not have heard of because he's not at the forefront of all of these conversations, but he has done a lot behind the scenes for, multiple ball clubs, is Sean Desai.
Yeah, another young guy. I think he's 39. Yep. He's not been in the league terribly long. He's been with the Seahawks for, I think, one season, and then he spent some time in admin in Chicago.
Yep. And so I have kind of some interesting things on him for his time in Seattle specifically. He was brought into Seattle before this last season to help Pete Carroll, who's been a coach since like 73 or something.
And now he is 73.
He's 71. He was brought in to help switch the Seattle Seahawks from a 4-3 to a 3-4. And specifically, he revamped the secondary from cover 3 with a single high safety to cover 1 as their primary coverage with a lot of blitzing and different looks up front to confuse quarterbacks and get them to make mistakes. It's been said about him that he can also coach a 4-3 if Stefanik doesn't want to switch his defense. And he's been known throughout his time as a coach in the NFL to be very adaptable. It's just a lot of different things with him. He has a PhD in teaching, so he's like, players love this guy. They say he just really gets it and knows how to explain things and get the message through to them so that they grasp it and understand how to use it.
And that seems to be the bulk of his background is in academia.
Yeah. So all those things, but a fun kind of note that I had in here is there are a lot of rumors that the reason that he was brought in and interviewed is actually because he may end up coming over as part of a staff for another coach like a Jim Schwartz or a Brian Flores to help revamp this defense kind of from the ground up. So, just something to watch, but he's a interesting name that's out there, and he has a lot of respect from players and coaches alike. So,
yeah, again, wasn't a huge name right off the bat because he's just not super well known. But I think he does have a nice background, and he's certainly gaining momentum as a serious candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, so that takes us to Brandon Staley, who is a new name that just popped up as all these rumors of him being fired as the head coach of the Chargers have cropped up since, we'll talk about the debacle that was the Chargers game. But if he does indeed get fired by the Chargers, he probably jumps at least towards the top of the list, if not taking the top spot, I would think, right?
I would like him in that top spot. I can't imagine San Diego, LA is really going to let him go.
They've kind of had really high hopes with Justin Herbert out there and the team that they've put together, and they've kind of been a letdown the last few years. So,
I guess Justin Herbert's only in his third year, so he's
just saying,
still a young quarterback.
This is the NFL. Nobody's patient in the NFL.
Well, that's true. It almost reminds me of Marty Schottenheimer out there. When he was there and Phillip Rivers was there and they went 14-2 and they were like, well, Marty Schottenheimer can't close the deal. I think LT,
biggest mistake of their lives.
LT was on that team. They went 14-2. He scored 30 touchdowns that year, and they were like, Marty Schottenheimer's trash, and they fired him at the end of the year. So it seems odd that your prize for making the playoffs would be fired. But yeah, absolutely. If he gets canned, I'll put a can right here for him.
Yeah, that's an exciting name, right? You mentioned all the things that tie him to Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, but that's an exciting name. That's a good coach out there that may lose his job just because they couldn't get past the first round.
Yeah, and I know that he is at least as good at losing as Kevin Stefanik. So when Stefanik
It's not hard.
gets fired. One day we're going to time that up.
Sorry, my bad.
When Stefanik gets canned, he will be a very good interim coach. I'm sure of that.
Yeah. So either way, those are the. I mean, that's all the candidates at this point. They've basically said like that's it. That's who we're looking at. And the process should wrap fairly soon. I actually predict that we'll know who our defensive coordinator is by the end of next week, possibly even before we record our next podcast.
Can I tell you a secret?
Yeah, you're probably going to anyway, so let's hear it.
Yeah, you're stuck.
I can't go anywhere.
Look, there's a lot of good names on this list. I don't think any of them matter, ultimately, because I think as bad as Joe Woods was, and sure, he needed to be fired, this whole coaching staff was bad. We've talked about the homophobe Mike Prefer in his teams. They were bad, but he got to keep his job. Stefanik had
still there.
Nothing going on this whole year, and he gets to keep his job. So I think as long as Kevin Stefanski is in that building and he's in charge, whether he's Podesta Patsy or whether he's King George, doesn't
It's gonna be the greatest topic.
doesn't matter at all because he can't do the job. So as long as your head coach is leading the team down the wrong path, you can have all the talent in the building you want. We saw this year, you had all the talent in the building, and it didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the most sought after defensive coordinator job in the NFL because there's absolutely no rules. like you could be terrible and you're at least keeping your job through the year. Because there's no accountability.
It would be hard to get fired after 1 year as that job. I think.
No, I'm saying if you're absolutely god awful, like he did with Joe Woods this year, he's like, well, we're going to let him finish the season.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah, there's no accountability in this building.
No.
I do think it should be an attractive opportunity outside of the fact that nothing in Cleveland ever goes right. Because you do have some talent on that team. I mean, let's look at some of these other teams that have openings right now. They don't have Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward. They don't have guys like JOK on their roster, MJ Emerson. Say what you want about guys like Grant Delpit and Greg Newsome. Like, okay, those guys are young, but they're good athletes. So yeah, there's pieces to fill there. That interior of that line needs help, and you need a really solid linebacker. But you also have tremendous building blocks.
Oh yeah,
foundations of a defense.
Oh yeah. So I mean, with that, I mean that's all of the defensive coordinators that they're looking at. That's all the Browns news this week. So let's just go ahead and kind of go through the rest of the Cleveland sports news.
Yeah, so this is a new segment, right? As we get further away from Browns season, Burning River Rundown will include
basically, if you've been with us from the inception, we had For the Land. That's all going to get rolled up into this.
It's basically anything that is Cleveland Browns news or anything that's remotely related to Cleveland sports news.
Yep. So next up, we got the Cavaliers. They're at 27-17 right now. They did drop to 5th in the East.
Bastards.
They're 2nd in the Central right now. They're a half game back of Milwaukee, I think. They continue to struggle on the road, though. This is where they're having a lot of issues. While they're 18-4 at home, which is one of the best records at home in the entire NBA, they're 9-13 on the road. So they're going to have to really figure that out. But in good news for the Cavs, Ricky Rubio returned this week. So it's good to see his face on the court.
Yeah, and I don't think he looks bad. I mean,
he looks like Ricky Rubio.
Looks like Ricky Rubio.
He's just out there, just being Ricky Rubio. Tons of tattoos, just doing it up. You know.
I do find it interesting that at 27-17, there's a lot of talk right now about moves to make. And I
don't think they need to make it.
I still think that this team has so many young players on it, and then you add in Donovan Mitchell, that I don't know that they are a finished product yet as is. So whether they add a body or not, I think this team still has a ways to go to gel. And it's good because it's only January.
I don't necessarily think – I think that this team as it is right now can compete for a championship. I just think they need time together. I mean, it's been – 27-17. That's 44 games. So.
I mean, they have to be in most matchups. When you look at just average age of roster, they have to be the younger team in most of those matchups.
Yep.
So it's going to take some time for them to really develop.
And they had injury problems all through
chemistry.
the beginning of this year. So
yeah, I mean,
they're starting to get healthy. Like I said, Ricky Rubio's
been
back.
Banged up. But I just find it fascinating that there's so much talk right now about trying to make a move, and you really have depleted assets in the same way the Browns have because of the Donovan Mitchell trade. And so you don't have a ton to bargain with. I mean, you got Kevin Love, which no one wants. And I mean, we want him. I like Kevin Love. But, and you got Karis LeVert. It seems to be kind of the bargaining chip at this point. So I don't know what they'll do approaching the All-Star break here soon. So to me, I don't see anything wrong with a young team being 10 games over 500 and in the thick of the playoff race and just letting it ride.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for just like sometimes you've got to understand when you need to let it breathe and just, okay, we've assembled a solid team. There's going to be some bumpy times as we adjust and just let it breathe and see what happens.
Well, this record doesn't look that much worse than some of the LeBron James-led teams that were.
No, it's actually right around the same thing.
When he was here. So I just think that as they continue to play together, they'll get better.
Yeah. So and they continue to be a lot of fun to watch. I mean,
sure.
I like that they play team ball.
And they play hard every night.
Something you talked about LeBron teams. As much as I love LeBron and I'm glad that he won us a championship along with Kyrie and whoever else, even though I hate Kyrie now. It's so refreshing to see a team play as a team night in and night out versus
except for that time that Donovan Mitchell scored 71.
Yeah. I mean, that was different. But no, I mean, it's so refreshing because for the vast majority of since 2003, Cavs basketball has been give the ball to one guy and everybody else get out of the way.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Next up, we got the Guardians Progressive Field. They just announced all the renovations coming for Progressive Field. So there's $200 million plus which will be completed by 2025, and $70 million of that is coming from the team. So I'll let you run with this because I know that you had some issues.
Look, I just know
not with the renovations. You had some issues with other things.
Twitter was set ablaze. There were several different articles written this week about it. I just can't understand why people are so upset about investment in your community and in your stadium. I know that baseball is full of, gatekeepers that want to keep the game the same way and keep things the same way for
we've talked about this
nostalgia.
Before. Bring on the steroids. Let's let them all do it, and we'll hit a lot of home runs, and it's going to be awesome.
But I just can't fathom why you would be upset that they're going to continue to modernize the stadium, because all that does is help you continue to bring events, things like the All-Star game back to Cleveland.
Yep.
You know, what's funny is this town is so hog wild when it comes to the Dolans are cheap. The Dolans won't spend any money. They won't keep any players around. Well, here you go. You have some actual investment to the tune of about a third of this renovation that's going to be made by the team. And I think a large part of that is driven by the new ownership, the new minority ownership group, which is what they came here for, was to invest in the team.
Hell of a start to his tenure, by the way. We're going to get this approved. We're going to get all these renovations. And then the town sits there. Your renovations are shit. Like, thank you. That makes me excited to do it again.
Like it or not, this team has struggled with attendance issues. And is a small market club. That's something that's always going to be a problem. This is a way to continue to be open and inclusive about the people that come to enjoy this game.
And have you seen the renderings of this thing? It's beautiful.
Well, it looks great.
It looks awesome. And there's another, we kind of got the corner bar or whatever it's called there, where you get the ticket and you get a high top and you get a beer with it. And it's pretty inexpensive tickets.
And in the summertime, it's busy over there. They put another one of those in,
and everybody's talking about, they're turning it into a sports bar. Well, here's a fun fact for you. Capacity is exactly the same. It literally didn't change. So no, they're not. And I'm sorry. This is where we get into the vocal minority. This is one of those situations where all these old heads, the people that don't want the game to change at all, whatever, they want to sit in their seat, eat their Cracker Jacks, and never have anything change. Well, guess what? I'd like to go and hang out and have an actual good beer and not a Bud Light because that's trash.
I like Bud Light.
Well, you're an idiot. So I'd like to go have a craft beer, sit down, and be able to have a good atmosphere while I'm watching a game. And here's another thing. Don't know if anybody else knows this or agrees. I'll probably get a lot of shit for this. Baseball's not that exciting.
Well,
so I want to go and be able to hang out with my friends.
Here's my thing.
Catch the game on my terms rather than having to sit in a seat and I'm just like, here's
my thing. If that makes you happy, then great. Why does your happiness, whether you're happy or not, why does it impact my happiness?
Well, and to that
if
point,
I wanted to go to the game and keep score on paper and keep stats on paper and eat a hot dog
each their own.
and a Coke.
I'm not mad at those people. Those seats are still there for you.
Right. Like, why are those things aren't mutually exclusive?
That's where I talk about the vocal minority, because people like me, who I'm like, I want to go and be able to hang out with my friends. This is the only time you're hearing about it.
Yeah.
Every other time, I don't care. There's other people that are there, like you said, with their scoreboards, meticulously taking notes and keeping score, and to each their own.
And we're not telling those people they can't come to the game anymore.
Do that. Don't sit there and tell me, no, I don't want another beer garden because I don't want you to have fun with your friends.
In fact, there's more seats for that than there is for the beer garden, because a third of that stadium is empty at all times.
How dare the team modernize and try and fit in today's world?
Look, it's just it's modernization isn't even about like trying to offer craft beers to hipsters. It's just about like
calling me a hipster. I guess we're starting to really check the things off. I got long hair. I'm wearing a beanie today. I drink craft beers.
You smell funny.
It's not a good look for me.
You love to recycle.
Everybody should love to recycle, Kenny. This is the Burning River Sportscast, where we like to save rivers.
But look, here's the thing, and we can have a different discussion on another day about how these stadiums and these projects are funded with the taxpayer funds that are used. I can get on board with someone if you say that's not the right way, fine. But this is the system that we're in today. This is the tax legislation that's been passed to pay for this stuff with the sin tax and that. So if you want to go have that conversation, that's fine. We can have that. And if you want to do something about it, then run for city council, start a movement, start a Facebook page. I don't care. Get out of my hair, though.
Good luck keeping teams in your town, though.
And the thing is that all modernizing does is continue to improve your city overall, because you have more public access grounds for events. I know they do stuff in even the wintertime. They have like sled rides, toboggans and stuff in there.
What was it called? Guards Fest or Guardians Fest or whatever it is.
The more modern your stadium is, the more you can host events like that.
Yeah.
Even big corporate private events, to have those types of like patios and things that could be rented out on weekdays during the summer.
Well, it's great too. Like the renovations are so cool, because where the bleachers are right now, they actually make that connect to the rest of the ballpark now.
Yeah.
So it's like you could literally go in a circle, whereas before, if you got up into the bleachers, you're kind of stuck there.
And I think a lot of this comes from people who have not visited stadiums in other states.
No, I just went to a Minnesota Twins game after a work event this year, and their stadium is very nice, and it's kind of that same concept. There's beer gardens and big kind of hangout places for you and your friends everywhere. Just standing room to where you can grab a drink, go over there and stand there and watch the game, and there's an open space for you to see the field.
Well, yeah, and I think if you've never ventured outside of Cleveland or seen anything like that, this is a foreign concept to you. Yeah. But if you've been to other stadiums where they've made that investment to modernize and create spaces for things that are more than just the game, then you're lacking perspective. And I think my final piece on this is just like, I think this is it, right? It's the cell phone. This whole cell phone methodology of, what do you need a cell phone for? Well, I need to text and to make phone calls. Okay, well, this is what Progressive Field is today. It's just a cell phone or a flip phone. It texts and make calls. Do you have a smartphone? Or do you not want that either? Because that's change and it's progress and it does a whole bunch of other stuff. They're turning Progressive Field into a smartphone.
Fair. That's a good analogy. I like it. Good job, buddy. So, yeah, I mean, that's enough talk about progressive field renovations. They're totally dope. Can't wait till they're done. I'm going to have a lot of fun at the new ballpark once the renovations are completed.
With all your hipster friends.
Just shut your mouth. And final note here in the Burning River Rundown, CJ Stroud declares for the draft. So it was he made everybody think for a second he might be coming back. He waited until the final day, and I had my hopes up. But, I think that the only thing that was holding him back and that made him consider even staying was the fact that he didn't beat that team up north and the fact that he didn't win a Big Ten championship.
Sure.
But he kind of said it after the game against the team up north this year. He said, look, I haven't beat those guys and I haven't won a Big Ten championship. So if that's my legacy, that's just something I'm going to have to eat. So...
Yeah, look, I mean, I wish CJ Stroud all the best. Has been a great player to watch for the last couple of years, and I too was hoping that he might stay because I think if he were here for another year, I think you're the next best team besides maybe Georgia to win. Going into next year. So, and only because they've won 2 years in a row. So I know that program continues to grow and they continue to invest down there. But that being said, I think even with the NIL stuff kind of coming to fruition and players are starting to see some coin,
it's still not the money you see in the NFL.
It's not the type of money that CJ Stroud is going to see because he's going to be an early pick.
Well, and that's where I was going to go with this is look, I understand all these, again, it's the older generation that they really want everybody to stay in school and finish out. Well, guess what? CJ Stroud's going to be a top 10 pick. You know what that guarantees him? $35 million in his first contract.
Generational wealth that...
you can't get that from NIL deals. Even the highest paid guys are maybe a couple million, which is very good money. Don't get me wrong. But here's the other thing that the people who want to sit there and preach to these kids to stay in school and do this stuff, we all just watched what happened to DeMar Hamlin last week.
Yep.
Any down could be your final down on the NFL field. So you need to get that money while you can. All these people that are in the NFL, and you see it actually pretty regularly, they can take classes in the off season. They can finish their degree while they're playing in the NFL.
Someone just tweeted that this week, and I forget who it was, but they said they left early, but they were finishing their degree this summer, and I can't remember who it was.
Right. So there's so many options, and not to mention, there's even more options for them because at that point they're rich. So they can go ahead and even if they want to fly back and be in person twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever, they can do that. And
economic freedom is freedom.
Yeah. And so, I mean, anymore, whether it's NFL, NBA, MLB, I don't really care. My opinion is these kids need to get their money while they can because they might only get one contract before it's all over.
Well, and that's the thing, right, is that it's just such a zero-sum game at that point because it's either I'm going to get drafted and get that contract, or if I play one more year, I might blow my knee out.
I was going to say, I'm reaching back a little ways here, but Willis McGahee is a perfect example of this. Willis McGahee
back when we were still paying running backs, Yeah,
Willis McGahee was the consensus top running back in that draft. Played Ohio State in the national champ, or he came back for another year. I believe he could have went the year before that, came back for another year because Miami was that damn good. Willis McGahee blows out his knee completely.
And I think we've seen a couple of draft picks.
He fell, and his career was never the same. And it's other people than just him. I mean, that was just the first one that came to mind.
I think we've seen a couple people just play in bowl games that knew they were going to the NFL draft, but played in their bowl game anyway to be with their brothers and play for a championship, whatever. And
Ted Ginn
had injuries. Yeah, I mean, it's not unheard of in this game that you could have an injury that could impact the rest of your career.
And again, lest we forget that when Ted Ginn ran that opening kickoff in the national championship back for a touchdown, the entire team tackled him, and that's when he broke his ankle. He broke his ankle. The entire game shifted because they just double-teamed Anthony Gonzalez the rest of the game, and they lost. But it also completely changed the trajectory of Ted Ginn's career because he was never quite the same after that.
100%.
So,
100%.
I mean, when your whole game is speed and you have a broken ankle,
it's hard to it's hard to play. But,
so just saying. But I digress. So,
I mean, I just think it's one of those. It's just the reality again of the world that we live in, and you can't turn down that kind of money.
Yep, I agree. So that's it for the Burning River Rundown. I'll take this time to mention once again the Burning River Sportscast Hot Take Hotline.
Hot Take Hotline.
Don't forget to call in, air your grievances. You could talk about anything. You don't like what we said about college football and people leaving for the draft? Let us know. You don't like the progressive field renovations? Let us know. You don't like the Browns because they continually disappoint you? Let us know.
You want to sing covers of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons?
Do that. I don't care.
Let us know.
Yeah, so 330-227-8080.
330-227-8080.
Call us now.
Operators not standing by.
It's a machine. So that's it for the news from the land this week. Let's take a quick revenue break and then come back and talk about the NFL playoffs and the teams that are actually good this year and still playing. Towpath Distillery. Towpath Distillery, the newest craft distillery in Northeast Ohio, located in Akron and family owned. Towpath Distillery focuses on high quality spirits carefully made in small batches. Towpath's lineup includes an ultra smooth, award winning premium vodka, a small batch silver rum made from the highest grade molasses, an American craft gin made with 9 botanicals, and a blended straight bourbon made from corn and rye. Towpath Distillery. Visit towpath-distillery.com to find an agency near you where the spirits are available, and make sure to ask your local bartender and restaurateur. Towpath Distillery. Handcrafted, small batch, local, and family owned. Go on and get some.
Go on and get some.
All right, so that's going to take us to the NFL playoffs wildcard recap. All right, so we're going to start with the AFC here. The Kansas City Chiefs got the bye this week, so we have the Chargers at the Jaguars to start, and what a wild game this one was. You got something to say already?
I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, this one was freaking wild, man.
So the Chargers got out to a huge lead early. They were up 27-0 with 1 minute left before the half, and then they went into the half at 27-7. Everything was clicking for the Chargers. Trevor Lawrence looked god-awful in the first half.
Was there 4 picks in the first half?
Yeah. I'll tell you his stats here in a second. But that score with 32 seconds apparently gave the Jaguars life, because Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars stormed back in the second half. He got them into position, and they kicked a field goal as time expired to win this thing 31-30. Yeah, freaking wild. But the first 7 drives, Trevor Lawrence 5 of 18 for 35 yards and 4 picks.
I was feeling so good about my pick at that point.
The Chargers actually had a DB, Asante Samuel Jr., had 3 picks on Trevor Lawrence in the first half, and at one point he had completed more passes to Asante Samuel Jr. than his own team.
He had the hat trick.
Yeah, so the last 5 drives for Trevor Lawrence, though, 23 of 29 for 253 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Just completely turned it around.
I mean, I don't even know how to feel about that, other than the fact that I feel bad for picking the Chargers.
I picked the Jaguars. I'm really smart.
Because this was as fluke of a game as you've ever picked. But
oh, really? Let me just read some stuff for you here real quick. This year for the Jaguars, Week 9 against the Raiders, trailed by 17, came back and won. Week 12 against the Ravens, trailed by 9, came back and won. Week 15 against the Cowboys, trailed by 17, came back and won. Week 18 against the Titans, trailed by 10, came back and won. And now, in the wild card round, against the Chargers, trailed by 27 and came back and won.
So you're telling me you anticipated them getting down by the 3rd most points in the history of any NFL game and coming back and winning?
I'm the smartest man that ever lived. I don't know what to tell you. So obviously I picked that right and Kenny picked it wrong. Not that we're really keeping track, but it's just fun to rub it in his face that he's not very good at picking.
More importantly is that every week now I'm kind of having to accept that Trevor Lawrence might be good.
Well, the fact that he had such a short memory in this game is pretty phenomenal, and said, yeah, I threw 4 picks, but guess what? I'm throwing 4 touchdowns now. So.
And the dude has still never lost a game on a Saturday at any level.
Impressive.
Professional, college, high school.
Impressive.
Never.
Next up, the Dolphins at the Bills. So the Dolphins here were down to Skylar Thompson. And somehow they found a way to make this thing competitive and actually gave themselves the lead and a chance to win in the second half. So they were up 24-20 midway through the third before the Bills finally took control. The Bills at one point went up 34-24, and then they closed it out. 34-31 was your final. There was some confusion at the end of this one as the Dolphins were going for a 4th down late in the game to stay alive. The head coach apparently was told by somebody. It sounds like somebody on his own staff from his press conference, but he was told by somebody that they had gotten the first down the play before, so he put the wrong personnel on the field.
That feels bad.
For 4th and 1, and then he realized, oh shit, this is the wrong group of guys, and he tried to switch them out real fast. He couldn't. They got to delay a game, made it 4th and 6, and they didn't convert. Bills got the ball back and were able to run out the clock on that next possession. So.
Look, I said last week that if Tua was playing in this game, I probably would have picked the Dolphins. And
it's amazing how much he changes that team. And I'm not even a big Tua fan, but he changes that team.
Early on in this game, I mean, I just kept watching it saying, geez, if they had a quarterback, they could win. Skylar Thompson played as good, I think, as Skylar Thompson can possibly play. He just was late on what felt like every throw. Ball just hung a little too long in the air every time and just couldn't complete enough passes. He had a lot of drops, actually, uncharacteristic drops from guys like Waddle, from their running backs. So they didn't do a whole lot to help him out in this one, but I was one of the few people that wasn't surprised that this was a competitive game. I thought that defense might give Fitz to the Bills.
Fills to the Fitz. To the bits.
Fills to the bits. Fills to the bits. Can we get a shirt that says that? Fills to the bits.
No, a fun moment in this one, though. Josh Allen just out there fighting defensive linemen.
You thought that was fun?
I thought it was pretty cool. You don't usually see a quarterback just go right back at a defensive lineman. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to fight you now.
I thought it was a real dick move by Josh Allen because
that's just because you don't like Josh Allen.
No, but because he started the fight with a defensive lineman, then his offensive lineman had to come in and finish it, and he just walked away like, I'm going to get the heck out of here.
Well, yeah, when you're the most important guy on the team, you know when to hold them, you know when to fold them, and you know when to walk away.
Look, I know they're your Super Bowl pick, but I think this Bills team is in trouble. I think Josh.
You can think all you want.
Josh Allen's decision making is a little bit. I'm not saying he's bad. I think it's a little bit questionable at times, and they can't run the ball. So someone's going to beat them.
Hey, you can think all you want. We both picked this game right, though. So, Ravens at Bengals. Here's another wild game. Counting on Huntley, the Ravens took the defending AFC Conference and current AFC North champs to the brink.
Can I say that while I did see the Phils giving the bits, whatever I said, the Finns giving the bits, the Bills,
the Bills, the Fits, the Phils, the bits.
I did not see this game being so close.
No, this was very surprising. Huntley took them down to the 1 yard line with the game tied at 17 with 11 minutes and 39 seconds left in the fourth quarter and a chance to take the lead. But what happened was Huntley tried to go up and over on a QB sneak, got the ball punched out, and it literally fell directly into Sam Hubbard's hands, who in turn rumbled 99 yards for the touchdown, which happened to be the deciding touchdown in this game as the Bengals went on to win 24-17.
When they had the ball down there in the goal line, I was like, oh my God, Baltimore's going to win this game.
And here's where I mentioned earlier, I have a bonehead coaching decision that I wanted to bring up that was a la Kevin Stefanski. And here it is. J.K. Dobbins, after the game, complained that he didn't see a single carry at the end of that possession, even though the Ravens had the ball first and goal from the 3. He said he absolutely would have scored, and he also said that they would have won if Lamar was playing. So there's that. But it sounds like Harbaugh's been watching too many Browns games and really likes how cute Stefanski thinks he is. So he decided to take a page out of our book, and it really cost him.
Stefanski thinks Harbaugh is cute.
Harbaugh thinks Stefanski's cute.
Oh, he thinks he's cute. Okay.
Yeah. So we both picked the game right, though.
This was another one, though, just like the Fits and the Bills. The Phils and the Bits.
And the Phils.
That as I was watching, I was going, man, if they just had a quarterback, they would have probably destroyed this team.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was wild, unexpected. I thought Huntley played a really good game to have a chance to win it, because I thought for sure this was going to be a game that Joe Burr was going to be pretty cold at. So
So we both picked that one right. So let's go ahead and head over to the NFC side of things.
I don't know what I'm saying. Joe Burr is cold.
I just cut you off. I don't care. You calling him Joe Cool? Is that where you're trying to go?
I don't know. Fills and Bits.
So on the NFC side of things, the Eagles got the bye this week, so we didn't see them. But the Seahawks were at the 49ers. Not a lot of note happened in this game. To tell you the truth, the Seahawks did come to play in the first half. They were up 17-16 at halftime, which was kind of a surprise. But then the 49ers got it together and ran away with it in the second half. Got an easy win, 41-23. The only real note that I have, Brock Purdy continued his solid play. He was 18 of 30 for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns to no interceptions. And he also rushed for 16 yards and another score. So just coming with that big Brock energy.
I saw that going differently in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things to note in this game. I mean, one, Brock Purdy's performance was astronomically good.
Yeah.
I mean, 18 of 30, 332, and 3 touchdowns. Like, who is this guy? Where did he come from?
I don't know. He really sent Jimmy Garoppolo packing, though. He was getting out of town. And for that matter, what's his face?
Trey Lance.
Trey Lance, that guy.
Yeah.
See, we forgot his name already because Brock Purdy's here to stay.
That's why you take that first contract.
Yep, exactly.
But the other thing I think that was of note was this game was 17-16 at half, and I think there was only one score made in the third quarter. So I think the Seahawks were up by one score to start the fourth quarter, and then the 49ers scored 18 points in the fourth quarter. So that's a if you ever looked at a box score, like that's a lot. You don't normally see 18 in one quarter. So
just blew the doors off at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, we both picked that one right though. And then we got the Giants at the Vikings. As I predicted, the Vikings' luck finally ran out. They've had a terrible point differential all year, and their luck finally ran out, and they got beaten by the Giants. And really, it wasn't even that close. I know the score ended up fairly close, but it wasn't even that close. They trailed basically the entire game after the first 10 minutes. Had no answer for Danny Dimes from the Giants, who went 24 of 35 for 301 and 2 touchdowns to no interceptions. And I will say, before you get into your thoughts here, you mentioned Kirk Cousins being a decent quarterback in the playoffs this weekend. Kirk Cousins made about the most Kirk Cousins throw you could possibly imagine on 4th and 8 with 1:44 to go and the game on the line in the fourth quarter. 4th and 8, 1:44 to go, game on the line. He throws a 3-yard out to his tight end. Tackled instantly. They lose. It's over.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Clearly, I was watching that last 2 minutes of this game.
And you were scratching your head like the rest of America. Like, what was that?
With hope, because I did pick the Vikings to win this game. And I thought, Kirk Cousins got this.
No.
And then he did that.
Here's the deal. The 2022 Vikings will go down as the worst 13-win team in history. The Browns might even have been able to beat them this year.
I mean, that's true.
I mean, what can you do?
Their team, again, thinking about it on paper, rosters, and you have Dalvin Cook and you have Justin Jefferson. And Kirk Cousins is, whatever Kirk Cousins is. And then there's nothing really else on that team that you go, well, yeah, they're a 13-win team. But I think the story coming out of this game, obviously outside the Kirk Cousins throw, which was the most Kirk Cousins throw of all time, was just the emergence of
Kirk Cousins throw. By the way, you like that? No, nobody liked it.
Of what did you call him, Danny Dimes?
Yeah.
He had a tremendous game, and that was the first time that I had watched him and thought,
this guy's pretty good.
He might be okay. I mean, I've seen a couple other Giants games this year, and I didn't walk away super impressed. He made a lot of plays with his feet in this game, and his throws were on time and
he's
accurate.
throwing dimes, huh?
He was dropping dimes.
Yeah.
And so I think if he didn't play that well, obviously I think the Vikings would have won. That's why I picked them. I didn't anticipate
Danny Dimes
coming out and looking so good. Final thought on Daniel Jones. Probably feels bad to be Baker Mayfield today.
Oh yeah.
After his text on draft night or whatever he tweeted or whatever about, I thought we were trying to win or something when they drafted him.
Yeah.
Bad take. Bad take Baker.
That should just be his nickname. Bad take Baker.
Bad taker Baker.
But in the same vein of what you were saying about kind of discovering Danny Dimes and how good he could be. Saquon Barkley came out after the game and said, well, I know we've got an elite quarterback. Listen, Saquon, take it easy there, speed racer. He had one good game in the playoffs. You don't need to get overly excited. Elite is a word that we're not going to throw around with good old Danny Dimes right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, did he have an elite performance in this game? Sure. But is he an elite quarterback? I will give you that he might be a good quarterback someday.
Yeah.
But he's not even quite there yet. So put him in the elite conversation is a little foolhardy at this point.
Yep. So I picked that one right. You picked it wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that'll take us to the Cowboys at the Buccaneers. Somehow the Buccaneers ended up with a home game, even though they were under 500.
Yeah, they are trash.
And they lost to the Browns, so they really are trash.
That's the biggest thing. They lost to the Browns.
Yeah. But anyways, the Cowboys took the garbage out this week and got rid of the GOAT.
The garbage goat.
The goat garbage. The garbage goat.
We had a T-shirt guy.
We have so many T-shirts. But there you go. You finally got a win and kept me from going undefeated this week.
Thank you.
And feels bad for me.
I'm telling you, this Cowboys team might go all the way through.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. So both of our Super Bowl picks are still in the playoffs. Mine played this week. Yours did not.
Undefeated this week.
You still sticking with the Eagles?
Fly, Eagles, fly.
All right, I'm sticking with the Bills. So
they're going to lose.
That'll take us to the updated playoff picture.
We really need a better name for that segment.
I don't know. Who cares?
Playoff party.
Anyway, so the AFC side of things, we've got the Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, and Jaguars still in it. We've got the Chargers, eliminated. Ravens, eliminated. Dolphins, eliminated.
ELIMNINT. I can't spell anymore either.
All right. And so on the NFC side of things, we've got the Eagles, 49ers, Buccaneers, and Cowboys still in this. No, that's wrong. We got the Eagles, 49ers.
Vikings and Buccaneers. Nope. Who wrote this?
We've got the Eagles, 49ers, Giants, and Cowboys. Which leaves us with the Vikings, eliminated. Buccaneers, eliminated. And the Seahawks, eliminated. So that'll take us to the divisional round preview.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man who puts the on in gonorrhea. I was actually just like butt fumbled about that. So that whole segment was just to say who was still in playoffs.
We could probably just cut it. I don't care. Anyways, in the AFC divisional round, we've got the Jaguars at the Chiefs. Kenny, who do you got?
I thought it was all one segment. Divisional round. Oh, God. The Jaguars are going to get slaughtered.
I agree. We've both got the Chiefs in this one. Cincinnati at Buffalo.
But I will say this. If Trevor Lawrence beats the Chiefs this week,
he's arrived.
I'm officially a believer.
Yeah, I might pick them for the Super Bowl.
If he throws 6 interceptions in the first half
and then 6 touchdowns, that would be incredible. Cincinnati at Buffalo in Atlanta, by the way. Who do you got? I think that's in Atlanta. Or is that the Chiefs in Buffalo that's going to be in Atlanta? I think it's the Chiefs in Buffalo. So Cincinnati at Buffalo. This one is at Buffalo. It's at Buffalo.
Do we know where they're playing?
It's at Buffalo. Who do you got?
I'm going to go Buffalo in this one. I think Buffalo's the better team. I think they probably survive one more week until they get stopped.
Until they survive another week and then go on to win the Super Bowl.
Until they get stopped by the Chiefs.
Yeah,
they can't run the ball.
Buffalo's going to win. Bottom line. And then that'll take us over to the NFC. Giants at Eagles. Who do you got?
I guess I had to pick the Eagles because they can't go to the Super. They can't go to the Super Bowl otherwise.
I've also got the Eagles, although I did struggle with this. The Giants are playing well, so I considered picking them. But I'm going with the Eagles.
Danny Dimes is elite now, so
Danny Dimes. He just got a great nickname,
and they do have a good running back in Saquon. So all things with Danny Dimes, all things are possible.
Yeah, and so finally we've got Dallas at the 49ers. Who do you have in this one?
Dallas at the 49ers. I am going to go Dallas because I think they could win the Super Bowl.
Oh, boy. I'm going to go with the 49ers because Dallas is still overrated, regardless of the fact that they just beat a sub-500 team. All right, so one more time, let me remind you of the Burning River Sportscast Hot Take Hotline.
330-227-8080.
330-227-8080.
330-227-8080.
Call us and talk about whatever you want.
Yeah.
Literally anything. We won't answer, but you'll be able to talk to an answering machine, and we'll put you on air if it's cool.
Yeah, don't call us and not be cool.
Yeah, don't do that. So, Kenny, that's a wrap for our show. What can we expect next week?
That's a wrap, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Holy smokes, look at us.
Yeah, look at us go.
So, obviously, we will continue to bring you the Burning River Sportscast rundown every week up through, when the Browns play again. So, we will cover all of Cleveland sports top stories along with divisional round recap and conference championship previews for the NFL playoffs.
Yep, and so don't forget to check us out on social media. We got Tap In Media on Facebook and Twitter at The Tap In Media, and on Instagram at Tap In Media Official. And we've got Burning River Sportscast. That's this podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Burning River Sportscast, and on Twitter at Burning River Pod. And you can find our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I'm talking Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Castro, and so many more.
I'm pumped up now.
Ready to start the show over.
I have more energy now than I did at the start of the show.
Dang. I had to get that out,
Fair.
Hit me with some facts.
Yeah, I got a couple of them for you here. First off, this is one of the shortest shows that we've ever done, so I'm actually looking forward to these playoff shows because it's just less time that I have to see you.
F you. F them all.
I just thought it would be important to bring up that peeing in the sink is for my hipster friend here.
I don't do that. Who does that?
Is a totally green option.
Fair. No water.
So you're welcome.
Used. No water is used.
Yes, because instead of wasting 1.6 gallons of water on a flush, you just pee in the sink. And then you wash your hands in that very same sink simultaneously.
And it washes everything out.
Washing down the urine.
I'm going to start peeing in the sink.
And preserving nature's most precious resource.
I'm gonna start peeing in the sink. When my wife asks me why, I'm gonna say it's very green.
Why is your pee green?
No.
Is it the gonorrhea?
No. Never mind.
Also, I thought this was interesting that the University of Wisconsin. It's a cheese state, right? They make cheese there. Cheeseheads. Has done what many have tried to do and failed.
What have they done? They
have discovered the secret to happiness. They've literally found the happiest person alive. And he is a 76-year-old former French, teacher or something.
French Riviera dancer.
And he went to become a Buddhist monk.
Wow.
And so they hooked this guy's head up to a bunch of different sensors, like 250 sensors.
That's a lot of sensors.
And then they did all these testings. And they discovered, while he was meditating...
What'd they find?
Gamma waves.
Gamma radio. He's the Hulk.
They were linked to consciousness, attention, learning, and memory at levels never before seen. And so he says the secret to his intense and copious happiness is to stop searching for happiness and to take 10 to 15 minutes a day to think about something happy. That's all you have to do.
That's it?
And that's what led to his gamma waves.
Well, ding dang. I need to get out there and get me some gamma waves.
So I thought that was interesting. Two more, and then we'll be done. Two more.
Our show got shorter, but this segment got longer. I don't understand.
This one's a short one.
It's literally a sign-off.
What's Ohio known for?
Buckeyes.
After that. Like if you just said to like somebody from like Texas, what's in Ohio?
Corn.
Corn, right? Because there's lots of farms here.
Yeah. Some people out there probably listen to this. They're like, corn? Because they've never been to Ohio or don't know what Ohio's all about. It's corn.
Our friends in the UK and in Brazil that are downloading the podcast, they don't know.
Yeah,
what's
they
in
have
Ohio.
no idea.
There's corn here. We have 3 cities. We have Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland, and corn.
we have 4 areas: Cincinnati, Cleveland, Columbus, corn.
And corn.
They all start with C.
And so if you're driving, so first off, if you're watching,
it's corn.
What does this say? It says Ohio, right? It just says Ohio. Imagine the word Ohio in your mind if you're driving. Or imagine.
I'm combining gamma waves with. Come on.
The word Ohio looks like a tractor.
I see what you're doing there.
And you'll never not see it as a tractor ever again. So you're welcome.
Great. I like that.
One more. All right. So remember when you were a kid, you used to dig holes in the yard and you used to go,
Holes. What a good movie.
I'm gonna digging holes. What's that song? Shia LaBeouf.
Good old Shia LaBeouf.
But you know,
Back when he was old Stanley Yelnats.
Stanley Yelnats. What was his little friend's name?
Zero.
That's a good jam.
That was one of the best adaptations of a book of all time.
Yeah.
I digress. Go on.
Because they literally copied it word for word.
Oh yeah, like the whole, like everything they say, all of it,
down to the dialogue. Yeah. Incredible.
Go on. Another fun fact. I extended this segment even more.
Also, Dule Hill is in that. What an all-star cast that movie had.
Incredible. I'm gonna watch that tonight. I'm not.
Final fact of the day. You were digging holes, and what was always the joke? Like, we're gonna dig a hole all the way
to China.
You dig a hole all the way through the earth, right?
You can't though.
Well, imagine you could.
All right, I'm imagining.
Just imagine you get your gamma rays, your extra levels of consciousness.
All right,
you dig a hole.
I did it. I'm in China,
straight through the Earth's core, all the way to the other side. And you decide now that you have this hole, what do?
I'm bringing Chinese things back.
Okay, so you're gonna jump in the hole, right? Well, let's think about this for a second. What would happen if you did jump in that hole?
You'd fall. Until at some point you were going up.
so
at what point does gravity flip?
You're using your big head. So the first thing that would happen is you'd be totally vaporized because it's really hot. It's really hot down there.
Wow, incredible!
but
good fact.
Let's say.
What was the point of this whole thing?
But let's say you didn't
You'd be totally vaporized. So end of story.
Let's say you didn't get vaporized. You get a magic bubble or a suit. You didn't get vaporized.
All right. You have a med.
Eventually, as you got closer and closer to the Earth's crust, the worst part of the Earth, on the other side of your hole.
Crust is terrible.
On the other side of the hole, your velocity would start to decrease as atmosphere and gravity. You're getting it. So eventually, as you got to the orifice of your hole, you would, when you got there, be at zero velocity.
And then you turn around and go back. So
you would want to grab something quickly. Because if you did not, you would just oscillate in perpetuity in your hole forever. And it takes roughly 90 minutes to make it from one side of the Earth to the other. About the same time it takes a spaceship to orbit the Earth. So you just take a 90-minute trip all the way to the other side.
It takes a spaceship 90 minutes to go around the world?
They want to go around? Yeah. Gravity's crazy, man. Space is nuts. But so if you didn't get vaporized...
This segment got wild.
So if you didn't get vaporized, you would spend 90 minutes flying to the other side, flying to China. Okay. And if you either get there and you hold on so you can get out because you're at zero velocity, or if you don't hold on, you just fly back and forth forever.
And that's a problem.
Which is a problem. Who wrote this show? Which is a problem. Don't just be a part of the problem, be the whole damn problem.
And only you can prevent river fires.
Burning River Sportscast.
Burning River.
Burning River.
What a crazy segment.
That was good, though. That was a pretty good segment.
Fine, well, it was allegorical. Well, we won't hold that against you. That's for each man to decide for himself. Samsonite. I was way off.
Death smiles at us all. All a man can do is smile back.
Today's episode was brought to you by Towpath Bourbon. Towpath Bourbon, made from corn, barley, and just the right amount of rye. This blended straight bourbon whiskey is designed for the real bourbon lover. Intense notes of maple, cinnamon, vanilla, and oats hit you up front. Rich and intense, yet balanced all the way through with a strong and lingering finish. Great by itself, on the rocks, or in a Manhattan. I know I prefer it neat. Towpath Bourbon.